We in this country, in this generation, are by destiny rather than choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. For as was written long ago, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman awaketh but in vain.
I should have just done that right off the rip. That's how it always works, right?
And the best content comes before we start recording, right?
That's right.
I was thinking, Lois, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's coming from you and Doug is just so rich, and it's real, and it's so time relevant to what we're going on, and really what we're talking about is of course, very central to your work, Lois, our feelings and our perspectives about what's going on. And again, that's all about frequency, as we've talked about with Gina Mazza, which I hope you get to meet her sometime, Lois. It's all about how we're feeling. This woman, this courageous woman that you speak of, Lois, that has done so many great heroic acts, that it's her frequency that is in the higher realms that really, and again, we speak of prayer in that whether or not it diverted the storm, I choose to believe the second storm to Florida, it helped a little bit. So,
I believe it helped more than a little bit. I was part of the prayer warrior team, and it was very interesting what we saw as our team went in, and there were others too. And we were really communicating with the storm, with Mother Gaia, and with the Galactics, and with Trumpetine. And we were communicating with them, so all hands were helping to assuage the mischief that was going on, and we could see that in real time. It was very interesting to be able to communicate with the energy of the storm, which was not Mother Gaia's storm. So number one, she was already annoyed because they are doing this stuff and calling it her, and it is not her. And what we were able to see was the storm when it was over the Gulf. We're talking Milton, not Helene. We got there too late for Helene, but Milton, we were alert. So our team really jumped into action, and we could see that it was truly only like a 50-mile-an-hour storm. It was not that big, but the intent was to interject some sort of energy into the storm that would amplify it, accelerate it, and cause it to reach category 5, or they were talking category 6. So was it truly the media trying to scare people by saying this is going to be the biggest storm and hitting a place where people were already wounded?
And fortunately, we tend to record stories now, so we have it for your enjoyment if you'd like it. But we record when we deal with reporters. It's called fake news, and we solve a lot of problems with the good old recording instrument.
So we ended up talking to the storm, talking to Mother Gaia, talking to the archangels and the galactics to intercede with what was intended. And we asked to please also put a wall up to protect the innocent. And that we did understand that there was a reason behind the storm that was supposed to take out some of those that were of low vibration, shall we say. So there's in many of these instances, we see that there's a white hat, black hat type of agenda. So there was an agenda to take out some of the low vibrational beings, and we wanted to honor that. And our intent was to protect the innocent, the high vibrational beings that are here to make a difference. And I believe that's what happened. We saw that.
amazing that you were able to see real time. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Lois? How that you or your team were able to see the effects? Not that, faith is faith, and we have our faith, and it's strong and holds us steady in times of trial and tribulation, yet you were actually able to see the effects of your good intentions and prayers. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So my team and I have been doing this for 4 years, really. And initially, we were meeting twice a week, and we've directed many storms, redirected, shall we say, redirected many storms. We've done a lot of work rescuing the lost souls and the shifting the energies of the dark agents. They're very real. People cannot understand how real the sorcery is. That the power of prayer, as you were saying earlier. Prayer is so powerful, but so many people have, I hate to use the euphemisms, thrown the baby out with the bathwater. They've gotten away from religiosity, but this is not about religion. This is about praying from your heart with intention, sending the intention to assist in some way. And it is amazing how it works. So we have been doing that, and whether 2 or more are gathered, it's exponential. So we've been gathering as groups, like I said, for 4 years to help shift the energy and the consciousness levels of this planet. And for Hurricane Milton, we were able to get in there and ask specifically to intercede with whatever they were going to do. And it seems as if what we saw was there was a plane that was supposed to go into the storm to inject whatever vibrational frequency or chemicals or whatever. That plane got grounded, got interrupted, that got stalled. They did that.
Right, December 8th, 2014. My cousin, who was fired by our dictator just before making rank withheld, sent me information given to him by a friend who is still an Air Force pilot. This pilot is saying that he flies chemtrail flights. This pilot told my cousin that this global geoengineering effort goes by the name of, quote, Indigo Skyfold, unquote. At least within the circle of pilots and aviation crews that he works with, they are told to fly specific routes, and satellite comm links control the aerosol dispersal patterns. He says that they only make course corrections from time to time and perform landings and takeoffs. Pilot, navigation, and maintenance crews are rotated constantly and only spend about 18 months at one given base. He states that this is to keep pilots and their families from making too many friends and ending up with loose lips. They are told to simply do their job and shut the F up. We are kept in the dark when it comes to getting honest answers about what we are really spraying. Should they discover that we or our families are actively inquiring about your so-called chemtrails term, then automatic and swift disciplinary action will be taken. The majority of the pilots are like machines. I call them tanker terminators. We are paid more than any other pilot for our service, other than Air Force One pilots, who make as much or more and are kept in a dark secret world for their own protection.
On the news, they were saying that there's 12 new cloud formations that they're now teaching to the kids in the schools. And of course, this would be one. It's probably what they call a snake cloud or something like that. Idiots. And today the whole sky, nothing but mist. It's all chemical mist over my head here, and people think, oh no, it's just cloud. This does not move. It just stays there stationary. Oh, it moves eventually. And look at this down here. That's what you call EMF waves. Look it up. Great for your health, for your brain cells. I'm just going to point the camera down here to the west, and you can see all this now up in the sky. And of course the ring, every day. And they say it's a sundog. No, not every day. No, sorry. You can see that ring all around the sun. It doesn't do that with cloud. It does it with mist, with chemical mist. Look at that, it's like fire. Those clouds are like leaping flames. They're not clouds, but then again, with the 12 new cloud formations that are being taught to schools, they probably call it fire clouds or something like that. Look at the spray now coming out. All those people looking at this, I know they're out there and they're saying, oh my God, the guy's crazy. Well, I'm just showing you what I see here and that is not normal. You don't have planes going with passengers on a route like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. This information, I guess, is quite sensitive to a lot of people, and they don't want the public knowing about it. But you have to know. I mean, come on, you have to just look up in the sky and you can see it. But they're hoping that you don't look up, that you stay face down into your cell phone, falling into sewers and off the sidewalk and everything else there. They don't really care about you. And but the one spraying us there should be jailed. And I'm sure those pilots know what they're doing up there. I don't know how they can sleep at night, but I guess they get pretty good pay there for doing this. Look at that trail there. And you nutcases say that's just a contrail? It's certainly not like a normal contrail, which is only about 30 feet behind the plane. It's starting now to, you can see it opening. That's what it does. See it down there, it gets wider. There you go. And people, they don't believe it. Because why? That's right. They're stupid.
That. And then we asked Mother Gaia, who was very upset about them hijacking and saying this is her storm. And so because what we do with storms is we reverse the spiral. It's the same sort of spin that I use when I'm dealing with people who have emotional upset in their gut. And it's all churning. We use the energy to slow it down, breathe into it, get it to a still point and reverse the spin. We did the same thing with the hurricane. We talked with the energy because it's an energy of its own, and we spoke with it, and we asked it to calm. And it did. When you think about it, it hit land as a category 3 and immediately down to a 2. And so, and we were in touch with Gina and Doug the whole time and saw where they were, were so afraid based on the media and what the media was saying that they had to leave. And it was probably good that they did. However, they didn't get hit nearly what was anticipated. And the reality is where the storm came before, where nobody was prepared, and it really devastated Florida. And then the other thing, and this is something that is my impression, talking about frequency, speaking to Helene, we can get into that in a minute. Do you want to respond to what I said about Milton? And because I have a specific hypothesis with Helene that is based on my 40-year medical technical background.
I can tell you something that I found very interesting about the first storm. Mm-hmm. So I've lived in the South for 25 years plus. I can't even remember now. So I've been through some hurricanes, and the first one, the winds were pretty good where we're at, but we got no rain. Mm-hmm. The pool was 2 inches low, and when it was all said and done, it was still 2 inches low. Now, that's a very strange thing. If you've ever been in a hurricane, there's a lot of rain that comes with that.
Sure.
The beaches, though, oh my God, it looks like nuclear wasteland. There's just things everywhere. There's piles of trash. It just devastated it. And then, of course, we had the second one come after that. And like you said, we left. We were going to stay. But we woke up in the morning, the storm was going to hit, and said, you know what, let's just hit the road and get out of town for a minute. Now they're having reports where they've got looters on the islands, and they're finding out that they're all immigrants. You know, and we went to the island the day after on the first storm. We went over there, and we ran into Homeland Security over there, which I thought that was really interesting. Why would Homeland Security come there? That's a FEMA job, right? I mean, it made no sense. So I think we're seeing their plan kind of play out for them, which is probably a good thing, because if we don't see it, we're not going to fix it.
Right.
You know?
And that's the thing is, I started posting things about the storms on Facebook, and people were saying, can't we just look at this and send prayers? Yes, we absolutely can. However, we also have to be aware of questioning what's going on in order to make right, in order to be aware so that we do not, history does not repeat itself as it has time and again with Paradise, with Lahaina, the different things, the land grabs that have happened. And my background, like you, Doug, I spent my formative years in the East Tennessee area, and I spent a lot of time in the North Carolina hills. So that area is near and dear to my heart. The people are simple, they're heart-centered, they're down to earth, and for them to have, like you said, a hurricane that had no water, that was strange. And the water seemed to have come from the fact that they released the dams above. The landslides came from the dams. But here's the other thing, my hypothesis, and this is just me, but I come from a background in ultrasound. I was a pioneer in the field of diagnostic ultrasound. And when we use ultrasound, the people will use a wand over your body. That is a piezoelectric crystal. That piezoelectric crystal is, in order to emit the sound to paint the pictures in the body, that piezoelectric crystal is excited by a wave, an energy wave that creates the ripple, the crystal to vibrate the crystal. And then that's what sends the energy that we use through the body, okay? So I follow a lot of different people, simple people that are backstreet people that are feet on the street. This is what we saw. And somebody recorded this weird sound that happened days before the hurricane, a very strange, it sounded like a foghorn that seemed to come from nowhere up and down the valley. So if the thought is that they have the highest, purest quartz crystal in those mountains, next to the lithium areas where they're wanting to mine for the lithium, what if this high sounding vibration that hit the mountain that is a quartz crystal stronghold, what would happen with the piezoelectric effect is that crystal would resonate, it would vibrate. And what would it do? If the dam is released, it's already unstable because of the vibrational effect of frequency. It's going to slough off the side of the mountain.
Right.
And that's exactly what the outcome was. Now, was that the root cause? It could well be.
Well, I
spent years working with piezoelectric effect. I've got patents in my name for developing ultrasound system-based and system design and all of that that's based on use of piezoelectric effect. What if that's what they did? Because they have patents for all of this.
Yeah, we know they can do it. Tesla showed us that.
Absolutely.
So we don't think the government knows how to use that to their advantage. They use everything to their advantage.
Well, the research was out there, Operation Popeye from the 1950s, where they used weather modification.
Yeah.
And that was, that's what, 70 years ago, 70 something years ago. You don't think that they've progressed a whole lot further from
Oh,
that?
they perfected it by now.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. It's interesting. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Judy.
Excuse me, Lois, this is I'm feeling betwixt and between, because I'm excited about what you're saying, and of course I'm also in alignment with the devastation and our need to be educated. What I hear, though, is two things, two big takeaways through the lens of education, which is frequency-based education, and that is what you speak of with not taking the religion out of prayer, but there's so many people that might not really appreciate the power of it, whatever their religious background is. If we can start with our young and even their parents and let them know the power of focused, heartfelt intention, exactly what you did with your prayer group, and let people know, and then let people know just of what you speak of your patents of this power of frequency. Right. We need to be educated, and I love what I'm hearing, so thank you.
One of the research projects that I was privy to at the time was they were using ultrasound frequency for healing. So they were using this to heal fractures in animals, and they would change the frequency of the ultrasound machine targeted at a specific lesion, and there was healing that happened. I don't know whatever happened with that.
That's Royal Raymond Rife. And let's put that into something that everybody will understand right now. I mean, how did they get rid of kidney stones?
Mm-hmm. Lithotripsy, the high vibration, blast them. Mm-hmm.
Goes in, it resonates, gets rid of it.
Yes.
So it's all out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many things, and that the medical community is using in many ways for healing. And I, again, my initial background was in OB, ultrasound, looking at the fetus. And when we would scan with the frequency of the ultrasound, the babies would put their hands, the fetus would put their hands over their ears and turn their head away, because sound is amplified and accelerated through fluid, through liquid, right? So what babies are suspended in the fluid in the uterus. So when the sound frequency would come in while we were doing the measuring, and we would spend a lot of time at the head to get an exact measurement of the head in order to date the fetus, they would, just like get away.
Oh my goodness!
Because of this, they were hearing the sound.
Wow, think about that. Think about the Dr. Emoto stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that baby's in that fluid, and if the mother's somewhere where that, I don't know, maybe she's listening to something bad, or she's in a household where people are screaming, calling names, that goes into her body, and it changes the structure of that water that baby's living in.
Yes, epigenetics is exactly what you speak of. Yeah. And there's been many studies and books written about that the baby in the womb is affected by frequency, energy, emotions, actions. It's fascinating.
And you think about that, right? I didn't really think about it until you just said that. So we are surrounded by music everywhere we are, right? So I don't care where you're at. You're in a dentist office, you're in the store, you're in the bar, you're in your car, you're watching TV, you're being hit with music. And we know that, what was it, in the 50s or 60s, I can't remember right off the top of my head, that they changed the frequency that music was tuned in. Mm-hmm. So we've all been living in this frequency. If you look at the Dr. Emoto stuff, where the 432 hertz frequency resonated with the earth, the natural stuff. So everywhere we are, we're being pounded with a frequency that just slightly causes that just to be the wrong frequency and cause dis-ease.
Irritation. So, it's an irritation.
Right.
Just like the quartz in the mountain that you spoke of, Lois,
exactly.
it was disrupted and fascinating. Would you say that the disruption was to the organic fabric of reality, which is, so that's the disruption. So the fabric of reality is as it is, and it in disrupting it, we can either heal or do harm.
Absolutely. Depending upon the frequency that you used, just like you're saying, Doug, you can use the 432 hertz for healing and other exponential for healing, or you can use it to disrupt. And it's all by frequency design, and they've got the control of that. They have the ability to do that. We had the ability to do that with the ultrasound machines. And we were actually limited to the amount of exposure we were to give to fetuses, especially with Doppler, the audible type of sound. We were very limited as to how long we could expose. So exposure is two parts. One, it is time and intensity, right? So the exposure over a period of time can amplify the end result, but it's also the frequency, the vibrational frequency that you use. So, for instance, if I was to do an ultrasound on the thyroid, that's very shallow. So I would be, and I'm looking at fine detail. So I'd be using a higher vibrational frequency to be able to image the thyroid versus imaging the liver or the kidney that's deeper. I'm going to use a lower crystal, a crystal that is tuned to a different frequency and give it a different charge to allow it to go deeper in the tissue. Somebody who is larger, I'm going to use a different crystal with different properties. So this is all known fact for 40 years or more. So they have the ability to do that even in diagnostics, let alone what they can use for other reasons. Because everything that's created for good, it can also be used for opposite.
The government knows how to do that, that's for sure. But I did some research on crystals, and is it true from your research, because you obviously know more than I do about it, but if you take like a quartz crystal and you put it in a pitcher of water, that it changes the structure of that water?
Especially amethyst. Amethyst is one that a lot of people talk about putting in water, and yes, they'll also talk about charging your crystals by putting them in the moonlight. So it interacts with so many different things. And just even holding a crystal. I have several different crystals here, but I love my little quartz heart crystal. But holding the crystal and sending it energy, the crystal then holds that charge. Talking about prayer, Judy, if you send a prayer or love or light into that, and the energy into that crystal, this is, people can tune into different vibrational frequencies of crystals. So many people will pick up a stone and they really relate to it. But if we send that in, then we can pick it up later and go, oh, this feels good, right? Because we've sent an intention with our energy, because we're energy generators. Humans are the number one energy generator source. Our hearts pump, our whole body is an energy generator.
Creates that vortex.
That's right.
In your work, Lois, whether it's with your prayer team, which is, I think, another division of what the great work that you do in the world, and I know that you have specific steps and processes to bring people into alignment with what their intentions are. Could you speak a little bit about the processes that you take your team through, or people that are attending a workshop with you?
Absolutely. And I'd like to back up just a little bit to thank you for that question. It speaks to the training that I'm actually involved in right now. Back before 2020, when I would do a hypnosis session with you or with Doug or with Gina or anybody, if you wanted to connect with your divine guides or your grandmother or wanted to correct a habit, I would simply take you on a simple step down and walk down a hallway and look at a mirror, and you could see your aura. And then based on the aura, we could determine, is there a spirit there? How big is the aura? What color is the aura? We could tell a lot about what's going on with the person based on the aura is our real being. That is the vibrational frequency that we exude at any given moment of time.
That's why they wanted you 6 feet apart during COVID.
That's right. Yeah, one of the reasons, absolutely.
Wow, I didn't realize that. That's fascinating.
So our aura is our energy signature. That is our spirit. That is our true energetic self. Well, what happened with 2020, I was working with a couple of people who were as consultants, and we were keeping our energy pure, and we would also then check on other people. So if a client came and we would do remote sessions for them based on their requests. I am a firm believer in not remote viewing people unless they have asked, because that's an invasion of privacy. So, but clients would ask to have their themselves checked. So we were keeping ourselves clear, and all of a sudden we started noticing differences in the auras. Why are the auras mucky and muddy and orange and compressed? And what's with the glitter in the auras? And what is this? This is different. And clients could no longer see their auras. So there was something that was happening in 2020 that was causing a disruption in the aura itself and in the people's ability to see their auras, be it a combination of the graphene oxide. When we started looking and seeing this muddy, murky orange color, and it was more prevalent in people who had the, but we also saw it in people who were associated with people. So we were able to document, before we even heard about it, the shedding and the results of the shedding. The other piece of it is there were cloaks. There were specifically designed cloaks that would intercede with the person's ability for their pineal and pituitary. Pituitary is the third eye. That's the pituitary. It sits right behind the eyes. That's the intuition. The pineal is back at the top of the spine. That is your God connection. That was being cloaked and interfered with deliberately by these external sources that were shifting the vibrational frequency of the organic human. And what Mother Gaia and Archangel Michael said, you've got to get back and you've got to hold on to your organic human self. So they taught us how to clear. So to your point, Judy, we were told back then how to clear the aura of the graphene oxide. And then we started seeing, there are these little squiggly looking things. We didn't know what to call them. We just noticed that there were these squiggly looking, what we later identified as Morgellons, the hydras, the parasites. We could see them in the auras.
And so
we started clearing them. And then we would see that they had the ability to break off, to replicate parts of themselves. So there's so many different levels of what this mastermind insanity to dumb down. They don't want to take out the humans per se. They want to dumb down the ability for us to connect with divine, because those beautiful souls who have the ability also have the ability to intercede and to overrule what they're trying to do, right? So it's the dumbing of the beautiful light worker starseeds.
Lois, why do you think that we understand that fluoride has been in a very very purposeful way. They've done that for many years to dumb us down. Just your general thoughts, both you and Doug, why do you think they've stepped it up from the fluoride to the frequencies, which is a little more powerful, to really, is it because of the Great Awakening and we are ascending? And so they said, well, we better step up the notorious acts. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts on that, I mean, that's absolutely how they did it. I mean, everything's been just a slow process of, dumbing people down and keeping it hidden and lying to people. The media is the biggest culprit to, like you said, they don't want us dead. They need us as slaves because, they're lazy. They don't want to work. They don't know how to work. They don't know how to create anything. They need you to do that for them. And that's what they're sucking out of us. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a long, slow process. But and that's the thing, like the Great Awakening, it started out, people just going, hey, wait a minute, I just heard something that really intrigued me. I need to look into that. I know this is how it worked for me, and I started looking deeper and deeper, and I'm going, wait a minute. And it just kept leading me down these rabbit holes that, opened my mind up to things that I didn't want to believe. So, but the thing is, once you can't fix anything until you know about it, right? So that's the thing. All we want are people to know about it, because knowing about it is half the battle. Now, at that point, it's up to you to change it. So that's my feeling on it. I got a way more scientific one than I do.
Well, and I have scientific, plus I also have the I had the opportunity to interview some amazing divine guides that are captured in the Chronicles of Hope. This started 8 years ago with a client who came to me, a senior scientist, brilliant physicist who was having difficulty sleeping. Again, as a hypnotist, easy, I can help people to sleep. His mind was racing. Anyway, in the process, he opens his eyes, looks me square in the face. Now, again, if you wanted to connect with your divine guides, you do that. I'm simply the guide, the scribe, and the protector on the journey. I'm just taking notes. He opens his eyes, looks me square in the face, and says, "We need your help to save humanity. Humanity is facing the next great apocalypse. If they don't change their ways, there may not be much time left." 6 pages of notes later, he comes out of trance, and I said, "What did you think of that?" He said, "It was very relaxing." And I'm like, "What?" So
amazing.
the next time he came, I said, "Would you mind if I turn a little recording app on my phone in case whoever this is comes back again?" And we ended up with 20-something sessions that made the series of books. I also, just so that you know, I'm very cautious about the quality of the energy that comes through, vibrational frequency like you're talking, Judy. So I brought in one of my consultants to say, "Is this guy for real? This information is coming through him. I want to know where it's coming from." And so he could see that Gary's spirit would step aside and this pure white light would come in. So that told us that this was pure information. And that made me start paying attention. But I thought we were having like 50 or 100 years before this would happen. And then when COVID hit, I started thinking, holy cow, they've given me instruction and information that is meant for humanity. I can't sit on this any longer. So in 3 years, I published 3 books. And this is their messages. And in their messages, Mother Gaia said the tampering with genetics is going to backfire on humans. I mean, they laid out exactly what's been going on. And I'm sitting here going, it was incredulous. I didn't know all this. I knew my frequency background from my medical background, but to be given information about you've got to change from the vibrational energy of hate to the energy of love. They also talked about, speaking of vibrational frequency, the aura that we have. The older the soul, the more incarnations they've had, and that doesn't necessarily mean the incarnations on this planet. They could be incarnated on various different planets. So the galactic ones, the energy consciousness of God, group of divine, shall we say, God, is sending us old souls here to try and save humanity. We've done this numerous times in the past. They're sending the old souls, those of us that have this knowing, and they're trying to prevent the younger souls from being incarnated right now so that the old souls can take hold and get control of this runaway, the evil that's going on. So therefore, the younger souls have a lower vibrational frequency. We've been hearing about these non-player characters out there. What I believe and what they have said is these are younger souls. They just don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the vibrational frequency. They are a lower vibe energy being. Doesn't mean they're evil. But they are more subject to being controlled by evil. You see, although those of us who have the awareness, who have the higher vibration, we recognize something is not right here because we have enlisted, subscribed, signed up, been subscripted, I don't know, to be here to make a change. So therefore, there are more of us old souls here. So the younger souls are more easily controlled by the fluoride, the graphene oxide, by all of that other stuff.
And but vaccines they get right off the rip.
Absolutely, because they will follow orders. But us old souls are the ones that question everything. And we're like, yeah, that's not happening this time. So there are more of us, and they've upped the ante. They're trying to take out the old souls or dumb down. So we have identified cloaks and pineal wraps and things that have specifically been sent to the old souls, not the younger souls. They don't have this. It's the old souls have been targeted with devices to dumb them down, to keep them from connecting with divine.
Wow. Lois, I have a question for you. And this is a little bit of a It's an interesting question. It could trigger some people. I don't know the answer, but I think I'd love your insights, both you and Doug. We've heard about a lower birth rate of late, and we can think that for many, many reasons, depopulation, whatever. But in alignment with what you just mentioned, Lois, about that we're in this holding pattern until things are cleaned out before we bring the new souls in. Could that have something to do with it, or are these two totally different things?
Doug, did you want to respond to that?
No, that's probably a better one for you. I'm not quite sure on
I mean, it's a little out there, but you know what I mean?
No, it's not out there. It's because I know several people, friends of mine, who've been trying to get pregnant. And I've also followed people like Christiane Northrup, who has done a lot of documentation about the stuff that's in these injections are causing aberrations in the sperm counts. They're creating disruption in the organic human. So they're causing disturbance, and people are, the actual event is not happening because the sperms are being obliterated at a more frequent rate. I don't know so much about the eggs, but it could well also be that the eggs are not, the woman's cycles. We've heard people, and I have actually had a friend who was a hairdresser who was already postmenopausal and was none, but she was doing hair in the crown chakra area with a lot of people who had been. She started having her period again. What is up with this? There were all kinds of weird things going on with women's menstrual cycles, directly related to the onset of these. So I don't know the technology behind it exactly, but I do know that it's been designed to interfere with procreation.
You know, I want to add something to that, because this is something I have researched a little bit. So the egg, right? We know frequency is everything. We know everything is frequency. So what happens to that egg, right, is that frequency of that sperm comes in, and it has a divine spark. It hits that egg and it puts off a light, right? So what they've done is they made it, that frequency of that sperm, different through all these other factors. So then when it hits that egg, it doesn't have that spark of life. That's what's going on with that. That's my understanding of it. And it makes total sense to me. Now, it might not make sense to anybody else. I may not be right, but that's how life is created. I mean, that's the spark of life. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on that part of that.
Well, what if in a large, and I'm speaking in a larger, grand sense, what if until we move through this period of chaos and humanity trying to figure it out, what if a divine hand has said, let's just hold off a little bit on bringing new humans in until they figure this out, which is what we're upon right now. And then in this new realm, this higher frequency, this more refined energies that we'll be living in, once we move through this, that we can start having, maybe we'll have more babies on the planet. It's an odd perspective. What do you think about that, Lois?
I think that's exactly what the spirits were telling us. Is we're trying to dissuade new souls from coming in right now in order to let the planet right itself. It's exactly what they said that specifically.
Wow. I just got chills when you said that. I've never thought that, but what you say oftentimes inspires and prompts new understandings within me. I guess that's why you do what you do.
The happened to me several times today.
Researchers recently discovered an amazing phenomenon in the womb. There is a literal spark at the moment of conception, leaving researchers dumbfounded. Teresa Woodruff, one of the study's senior authors, described the light as, quote, breathtaking. The spark of life indicates the Catholic Church was correct when it stated throughout the centuries that life begins at the moment of conception, with some believing the spark is the moment a soul enters the newly fertilized egg. Researchers believe the discovery can help them during in vitro fertilization, which currently requires the fertilization of several eggs and the use of only one, while the others are destroyed, effectively killing whatever chance those lives may have had. Now, with the spark of life, scientists will have a better idea of which eggs are properly fertilized. The discovery also indicates that one day scientists can fertilize a single egg rather than several.
The challenge, though, they said, is because each soul has their own free will, they cannot force the energy. So here's the difference also in the inner vibrational frequency of good versus evil. This is really a very key piece. The energy of good, God energy, cannot force the new souls from coming in, because they can encourage them to go somewhere else for now or to wait for a little while, but they cannot enforce their will because we all have free will. That is the difference between the evil, what I call evil, the dark side. They will control. So you've heard people talking about commanding your guides. I would never consider to command Archangel Michael, Jesus, God. I would beseech, I would ask, I would say thank you in advance, because all we have to do is set the intention for good, and they will do it. They are sitting back going, when are they going to ask? You know, it's kind of like, we can't interfere with your free will, but by golly, how about if you ask? And then boom, they will be there. That is the difference. If you're commanded, the dark side is commanded. I have commanded reptilians by the thousands, not I, working with the higher realms. They operate by commands, not the light side. The light side glows and they're willing to do, but the dark side is commanded. So if you hear someone say, command your guides, be aware that they could well be coming from an infiltration, shall we say, because the dark side is absolutely commanded. The light side is requested. Does that again, it's a different vibration.
It makes perfect sense, Lois.
My favorite things to use, power versus force, is this, this desire, this command of using fear. That's all low vibration. Commanding is low vibration energy versus asking, requesting, thanking, gratitude. That's how you can tell the difference. If you're dealing with a high vibrational person, they might stand their ground with kindness. However, they're not going to attack. There is a difference. The low vibe is going to attack. Sorry.
Didn't want to cut you off there. I'm kind of a practical kind of person, right? So what you're saying about that commanding part of it. So if people stop and think for a minute, the bad guys tell us everything. Now, why do they do that? Mm-hmm. Because they know it's free will. Mm-hmm. So they tell you, they might not come right out and tell you that, hey, we're putting fluoride in your water to dumb you down and make your pineal gland calcify.
Right.
But they tell you and you accept it. That's how they play their game. That's what's so important about people understanding and all these people putting out truths. None of us really want to do that, mm-hmm. but we have to do that. Otherwise, we're accepting what they're doing. And
by accepting, Doug, that's an inadvertent contract.
Right.
Just
like the legal system is.
It's a contract. When you accept that they're going to do this and you just say, okay, now you have a contract with the evil. And we see this, one of the things that we're seeing now so much, for years I've dealt with what I always just called nasties until I found out more about them being reptilians or the tall grays. The small grays we've rescued, and they're working with us and for us. They were the ones that created the devices originally, but they were slaves to the reptilians and the tall grays. So what we're finding now more than ever is sorcery. This is the use of prayer, dark magic, witchcraft, by way of blood sacrifice. And we are in that pivotal, this is a high holy for them. Halloween is a high holy time, because the veil is thinnest. Originally, it was a Druid or an ancient Celtic holiday to celebrate and venerate the dead that have passed over the year. They would set, feast out for their loved ones that died over the year, and they would invite them to come one last time. We're going to have a party, a celebration, and we're going to help you all go into a place, whatever they would call heaven. Even the Christian churches have All Souls Day and All Saints Day, celebrating and venerating, helping. Again, it's all about honoring our dead. The veil is thin. It's a wonderful time to help them lift into the light, right? This is also a time, because the veil is thin, this is a time when those that are practicing dark magic, sorcery, satanic worship, they can call the dark forces to them to do their bidding. And they do this via these different types of horrific sacrificial things that they do. And we have worked with numerous people who have been through this type of ritual. So we've dealt with people who have experienced this firsthand. So, and then our team has rescued the lost souls by the thousands that have been used in these ritual abuses. So think about the movie. Disney has a lot of these, like you're saying, Doug, that they tell you what we're going to do. Ursula, was it Ursula in the Little Mermaid that captured her voice? Remember, she had the beautiful voice, and Ursula the witch captured her voice because she wanted to have legs. And so in order to grow legs, Ursula, in exchange, she gave her voice. So Ursula captured the essence of her soul, her voice, her beautiful vibrational frequency voice, and used it to conjure the dark side. That is exactly what we find when we go into these different places where the satanic rituals have been. They have captured the souls of these animals, babies, others, and then they use that fear-based vibration to excite and accentuate for their power and control.
Lois, this is incredible. I've kind of heard about this. They talk about LOIS energy. I want to relate this, if we could, because I just heard something brand new that I'd never understood or even thought about. When you talk about sports stadiums.
Yes.
And you talk about I just got chills, whether you talk about a big concert or a football stadium. This is aside from the trafficking that might go on, or maybe they're related. I don't know. But can you speak a little bit, because this is a new understanding for me about energy that might be captured and the shape of the stadiums.
I can add some to this too.
Oh, I'd love to hear your thoughts, please.
Yeah, Doug, let me my top of mind, and then I know where you're going to go. So I would love to have you jump in. So yes, remember, we are energy vibration. Okay, us beings. These different energies on his beloved Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins. I've been following him. I read his book years ago, very detailed book, very technical book, but where two or more are gathered. Now you've got all of these people that are generating energy. Ancient times, that kind of LOIS energy could be used to create pyramids, maybe, to use the energy, the human energy. Because I actually asked the guides, how are the pyramids created? They said it was because humans knew how to use sound. They knew how to use vibrational frequency. This was something that humans knew how to do. So in that kind of any sort of a gathering of beings, there's huge amount of energy that's created that can be siphoned for good or for evil. It's just the good people are oblivious to it. They don't know. But the satanic forces know. They have the knowing, and they know how to use it. So yes, they are draining the energy. They are capturing the energy. And one of the energies that is the most, there's two energies. One is the energy of fear, is sort of like their day-to-day food. Okay, fear is what they feed off of. The energy that's given out by a light worker, a beautiful glowing soul that is unprotected, is kind of like their candy. Ooh, we've got someone right here. We can scoop off if they're not protected. I mean, we lock our cars, we lock our homes, we put on a coat if it's cold, we put on rain boots or whatever, but we don't practice protecting our vital energy source. So therefore, we are targets at being targets of energy vampires. So they vamp off the fear of the low level people. That's a low vibration. And they vamp off the higher vibration, unprotected, beautiful light souls.
And unaware.
And this is part of what the first thing that Archangel Michael told me 30-something years ago is you must ask for protection first, then healing, then empowerment, but always protect first. So this is what's not taught to our beautiful light workers. There's, if I just be love, then I'll be fine. Yes, they don't like the energy of love, but they're going to try whatever they can to lower your energy by killing your cat, by making your husband angry. They will get to you to lower that vibrational frequency. Ideally, yes, they're afraid, like the Wicked Witch is afraid of water. They're afraid of the energy of love, the energy of high vibe sound, like you're talking, Doug, the vibrational frequency. Those high vibes are that's their kryptonite. They want the light workers dumbed down because the light workers have the ability to take them out. But the unprotected light worker is the type of being that is going to be, just let's block them. Let's block them.
This needs to be our new education system, Lois.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to work with you on.
We're working it out.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
So, Doug, what were you going to say about it?
So, this is a big part of everything. At least from where I sit at. This is really where I've kind of dug into. You say that we haven't protected we put on a raincoat, we do all this stuff to protect our kids and all this, and then we send them to a Taylor Swift concert.
Yes.
Or a Travis Scott concert.
Just felt like we was literally in fucking hell, bro. It felt like we was in a concert in hell. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't see. Just imagine all the people they're gonna find tonight who was in that crowd, who nobody could see, who nobody could hear, who passed out, and everybody was just trampling on top of them the whole fucking concert. I'm thinking it's probably gonna be at least 100 people who dead tonight. I kid you not. In the VIP section, it was so many bodies laid out. People was getting pulled out who was fainted, and the medics were trying to give them CPR, and they was flipping them over, and they was literally turning them black and blue. I never seen death in my fucking life, bro. Just by me alone, it was probably 10 fucking people laid out dead. And once the medics tried to help them, they wasn't responding. They moved to the next person. It was nothing they could do. This shit really fucked me up and really spooked me tonight. That was some demonic shit. And what was so crazy, people were screaming help, trying to tell Travis Scott. They was help. The whole crowd was just going help. And he just kept going, bro. It was that shit was scary, bro. It was so demonic, bro. And mind you, y'all see the type of music I make. Y'all see everything, I've been so heavily influenced by Travis, but after tonight, bro, God really showed me, stay away from that shit, bro. That shit not for you, because he sacrificed so many people's lives tonight, for real. So many people's lives are gone tonight because they want to go to a fucking Travis Scott concert and have fun. He influenced people to be raging and all this shit. So many people broke in, and it was just chaos, bro. It was a living fucking hell, bro. Imagine seeing all those dead bodies, and that was just by me.
Where these people know how to use this stuff, and to prove a point with that, and this is something I could talk about forever. But look at the Capitol building, right? What is it? It's a big dome, right? You know what that really is? That's an amplifier. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. And for people who don't understand, if you look at these old churches, right? You walk in these old churches you look at them and you're like, holy crap, this thing's beautiful. It's all carved out. It has all these different designs and all this. And it's something that we couldn't build now, right? But they tell you it was built not too long ago. Well, those were healing centers at one time.
Absolutely.
You'd go in there and there would be sounds that would play. The organs, right? That's your first computer. Right. Think about that for a minute. That had slides on it. What were those slides for? Big old organ pipes, there's like the center of the whole building with all these little cavities this sound could resonate in and everything. You could slide those sliders up and down to get through all these frequencies. Like maybe you found the frequency of cancer, right? Let's slide that slider a little bit up. All right, there's the frequency of cancer. Now you're in this resonating chamber that your body is vibrating. And I can tell you something about this that I've experienced. When your third eye resonates, right? It feels like you're pinching your nose up there, like right in between your eyes. That's what the right frequencies will do for your body. So, but really what I want to say about that is they captured, like you're saying, the LOIS. It's that energy, and you're participating in their energy. You know, they know how to manipulate you to participate in their energy that they want to capture. Like in the Roman times, they had the lions come out and eat people, and people will be there. You know, that was their football. Because
even bread and circus, right?
That's why they're shaped the way they are. A lot of these stadiums, if you look down on them, what did they look like? Have you ever seen that? They look like the all-seeing eye. Look at them from overhead. Pull it up on Google Earth and look at them. All this stuff, it's all symbolism and everything that people just don't see.
Right.
You know, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the beauty of it. That's why people need to spread truth so that people see it, because we're so oblivious to everything.
And sadly, there is a large percentage of people who won't see it. No matter how much you talk, no matter how we share, they're not ready to see it, and they're not capable of seeing it yet. That doesn't mean that they will someday, but it takes somebody who has that higher vibrational awareness and curiosity to ask the questions, because the most of these lower vibrational people, not that they're evil, but they don't
trapped.
They're trapped. Yes, they're trapped.
Yeah. I really want to get into this subject in particular at some point, but you know, I think we need to build things up to where people can understand it from the ground up. So
I think we've gone through a whole lot today.
Yeah.
Lois, you know, you speak of Dr. Hawkins, and we had Gina on, Gina Mazza, last podcast, and she has interviewed Dr. Hawkins a number of times and has great stories about him. So that's our intention, Doug, isn't it? That's our heartfelt intention, is to bring Lois Hermann and Gina Mazza, and of course our co-host Gina back together so that we can discuss these stories, because the frequency, it's all about the frequency. And I have one more thought about that I wanted to ask about. I don't want to get political yet. We spoke earlier about the Madison Square Garden. When you think about frequency, there was so much frequency. Can you speak to any of that, or what that might be about, Lois or Doug?
As far as Madison Square Garden, you know, and I've been to several Trump rallies. And the frequency is contagious. The people are so up and positive, and it is a wonderful, uplifting experience to be there. I want to share something that I have shared before that has specifically to do with vibrational frequency. That back in 2016, I had a client who wanted to know about the frequency of the two political candidates at the time. So my amazing consultant Peter was able to check in and look at both of the two frequencies. And what we saw was very telling and very much an eye-opener for me. Because again, I was a single mom, busy making a living and raising my children. I didn't have time for politics. I knew nothing per se. When we looked at the woman, dark, daggers. There was no human element in that being. It was pure evil. Wow.
Reeked it.
When we looked at the man who's running again now, what we saw was a pure light. And we saw like a well-oiled thought process. It wasn't like a machine, but it was just a very, very high vibrational, analytical thinking process. But the thing that was the biggest tell was the amount of light in and around him. And since then, we have checked in on his energy and his beloved wife. She is like an angelic frequency, high frequency. His whole family that it's surrounding him are high frequency. What we're seeing on the other side is very, very, very dark, very low vibe, very full of hate, very full of greed, power. It is just, the difference is night and day. And we can see it in their actions and their words. It speaks to who they truly are.
And as we evolve and elevate as a planet, as a consciousness, as a humanity, I think that's becoming more and more apparent with this upcoming election, whether there's an election or not, that
Right.
we're moving away from this two-party system and duality into a raising of consciousness and frequency. And it will be a natural inclination to move in that direction because it feels right. Of
Right.
course, we do our research, we do our historical homework, we understand, yet and Doug, it comes down to it. And of course, Lois, this is your cornerstone ideology, is frequency. It's all about the frequency.
And Judy, I want to share one last thing. Doing all this research and doing this homework and knowing what we know can lower our frequency as empaths, as sensitive beings. It can lower our heart into sadness for all the horrible things that are going on. Yet, what we have to do is reach out to each other, reach out to nature. You're talking about listening. Doug, you're talking about these oracle chambers, if you will, the cathedrals. They have these beautiful bells. People really didn't have cancer back then because they had the bells vibrating, keeping our vibrational frequency up. The birds keep our vibrational frequency.
And frequencies away.
Yes, because the evil does not like those high vibes. That is a kryptonite to them. So the higher vibe we can be with protection, the more we can sustain, and we've got to stay in the energy of love. We've got to be love. And I want to give one huge shout out. I mentioned her before we got on the air. Beautiful Kirsten Niemela was a J6er that went to prison. She did not even go into the Capitol, but they made an example of her. This beautiful woman she's a construction worker. I think she might be 5'2", if she's that, maybe 100 pounds. Strong, beautiful soul. She just got out. She served her time, got out, and she just led 3 trailers of goods down to the North Carolina Helene survivors. Spent, 10 days down there helping them. She went down with an all-terrain vehicle, and she was there with a smile the whole time. This beautiful soul, everything that they have done to her, yet she holds on to this high vibe energy of, what can I do to help others? What can I do to help others? And she is somebody that I hold dear in my heart as an example of holding on to what could be. And she's amazing. So there are people out there that are really doing it from the heart. There are other people who are doing it for power, greed, accolades. This is a beautiful soul that is just wants to help in some way.
I got a question for both of you guys. Do you think there's any comparison between like what happened on 9/11 with the people and what's going on now? Yeah. Judy, what's your thought?
Well, I think as you first say that, Doug, I think it's multifaceted. I mean, if we think of all the different interdimensional, different parallel timelines, that there's so many things. We talk about it from an energetic standpoint. What kind of energies were there that were used for whatever nefarious people wanted to do with those energies that were caused by that, the deception of what went on there. And again, as you're talking about with your friend Lois, you just spoke of in North Carolina, the Floridians, people coming to help. So it's almost it's interesting that when these things happen in the future, we can be ever mindful of course, going with the emotion of it, but being ever mindful of how the energies that we emote might be used. We want to be authentic in our frequency and authentic in our heartfelt intentions to help people. Yet, it's the same thing. These are different parallel timelines. I think that we're handling these situations that are kind of a myriad of 9/11 occurrences happening all at once. Because we are being elevated as a humanity, we're choosing and learning and becoming aware of using ourselves as a vessel to uplift humanity in these times, rather than and to support, as opposed to detract and diminish. That's what I wanted to say.
And you're right. And it's a fine line when we talk about all the horrors that are out there. We're not doing it to create sadness or disruption, fear. It's making people aware. We're in a war right now. And it's an unseen war. There's a frequency war going on. Frequency between the media, between the energies. There's a frequency war that we are not seeing. So we have to combat that low frequency. We have to, like Doug, you said a minute ago, you have to know it's there in order to fight it, in order to combat it, in order to rise above it, shall we say. So you can't just put your head in the sand and expect it to go away. That's what many of us done for a long time. Yeah. When we're aware, then we can take measures to rise above it.
And yeah, I'd say it's more of a feel thing than a see thing anyway. I mean, I keep going back to this every time I start talking about this stuff, is you meet people for the first time, and a lot of times you have this feeling, and that's the frequency thing, where it's like, oh my God, this guy isn't authentic, or, I'm never going to talk to this person again, and I don't even know why. That's that feeling part of it. And a lot of this stuff we're going through, I think that's a lot of it, is you feel it. Something's wrong, right? Well, what's wrong? And then you start feeling around, I guess for lack of a better way to say it, you start feeling where it's not right. And that's the essence of the frequency thing and the war of them. In my mind.
Doug, I totally agree with you, but what happens is we dismiss our feelings.
Yes.
We get into our head and we start overthinking it. And what we have to do is go back and honor our integrity, honor our intuitive knowing. And if someone doesn't feel right to your words, pay attention to that. That's a flag on the court.
Gut feeling.
That feeling, that gut feeling, that is your inner barometer that's telling you something's off with this person. And again, it's not that the people are evil, but there are those, but many of these other souls are hijacked, are influenced, and they don't know it. That's the thing that's the saddest, is they have the potential to be amazing. However, they have been hijacked because they have not protected themselves.
Well, they're looking for somebody to tell them what to think. I mean, that's how the media does their magic, right?
Right.
Well, here's what's going on. Okay, I guess that's it. It's right around you. All you got to do is look and see what's going on. Is a lot of this stuff, is it really affecting you that you're hearing in the media? Is it like you're walking out in the street and you're seeing all this bad stuff? And, I thought about this years ago. I'd walk out, like racism, right? I've never had an issue with that myself personally. No. Never had but if you listen to the news, everywhere you go, black people are killing white people killing black people, blah, blah, blah. So what's going on around you? That's what you need to pay attention to. Of course, you got to look at the bigger picture, but, pay attention to what somebody's telling you, and then put it, that's where what's what I want to say that.
Doug, the real people who don't have anything to gain from sharing their story, right?
Yeah.
Those are the people that you can trust.
Right. That's practical use of information, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Doug and Judy, I have another call here in a little bit. I'm going to have to leave. This was fabulous. I hope we can do it again.
Oh, Lois, I loved it. Doug, as always.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about where we are in this timeline of Earth. And I thank you both for the wisdom that you've been so generous to share. So thank you both.
And you as well, Judy.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I wish we would have started this out with some introductions, but we were so excited about what we were talking about. We did hit record and we never stopped. So,
And Lois, let me just ask this though. People can go to your website and
Sure.
you talked about your 3 books. Can they be purchased there?
Absolutely. It's Lois Hermann with 2Ns.com. And what I encourage people to do is download the Sacred Space exercise. It's right on the homepage. Download that exercise because that's something that you can use morning and night to simply protect yourself. And this is one of the biggest things that we start with is protection. And then that will also put you on my mailing list and you'll be able to get information.
I'm already on your mailing list, yet I'm going to download that today. And I think it's October 28th. We're moving into some fascinating times. I'm going to use your protection exercises from this day forward. So thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
One more
Thank you,
thing.
Doug.
One more thing to say.
Yes, music is medicine.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
I
you both.
love you.
29th day of September 2021. Welcome to the Stu Peters Show. My name is Stu Peters. Well, to prove that there is nothing to fear from vaccine boosters, resident White House dementia patient Administrator Joe Biden publicly received a Pfizer booster shot on Monday. At least that's what we are told to believe, because that's what the media showed us on TV. Has to be legit. One day later, the White House announced that the president's trip to Chicago is postponed, supposedly so he can negotiate with lawmakers about the Democrats' big spending bill. But no, you won't see him in public in that span. Why, do you ask? The Biden administration is still pursuing its plan to force a vaccine into the arms of every living and breathing organism that scours, crawls on, or occupies America, regardless of age, health status, or religious conviction. But that dictatorial push just isn't enough. So they're also expanding their push to booster shots. Of course, those will be mandatory soon as well. Soon everybody will be paying their mandatory tribute to Pfizer, to Moderna, to Johnson & Johnson every 6 months for the right to travel, go outside, hold a job, have a life. And they're racing forward aggressively. Even the CDC's own advisory committee on immunization practices voted against endorsing booster shots for healthcare workers and teachers. But last Friday, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky just overruled them. The Biden administration's political priorities come first, and that means more vaccines being forced into more arms. Dr. Carrie Madej says that she's personally examined multiple vials of the vaccines that are being forced into people's arms, and she says that she was horrified by what she saw. She says she cried harder than she ever has before. She says other American labs have looked at the contents of the vaccine vials only to shut down shortly after. And Dr. Carrie Madej joins us now. Doctor, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stu. It's my pleasure to be here.
So you sent these images to the show. I've looked at them. I have to say that I was creeped out, but then again, I realized I don't know what I'm looking at here, so help me out.
Okay, so first of all, it was in July that a local lab in Georgia said they wanted me to examine contents of a vial that they had just received. This vial was fresh. It had already been used to be injected into at least one patient. Because it was the end of the day, they were going to discard it. So they were able to get the vial. And this particular vial was Moderna. And so I was there to witness them getting that and putting some of the contents on a glass slide with a compound microscope to look at it. And it was nothing was added to this solution. Nothing was diluted. No human tissue was added. Only the white light for the microscope. And of course, over time, it was becoming more room temperature from the refrigeration. That was it. And so at first it looked just translucent. And then as time went on, over 2 hours, colors appeared, which I've never seen anything like this. There wasn't a chemical reaction happening. It was a brilliant like blue and royal purple and a yellow and sometimes green. And so these colors appearing, I did not know what that was. After investigating a superconducting material can do that with white light being emitted to it. Okay, a superconducting material would be something like an injectable computing system. Anyhow, these fibers were appearing more and more. Some of the fibers had a little cube structure on it. I'm not sure what that was. And also metallic fragments were in there. They were not metallic fragments I'm used to seeing, more exotic. They're very opaque, as well as, as the edge of the cover slide goes, so the cover slip, when you put a glass partition on that or a piece on top of the glass slide, there are edges. And so all the particulates, all these colors started to move to the edge, and there was self-assembling going on. Things were growing. They looked synthetic. And then there was one particular, I'd say, object or organism, I'm not sure what to call it, that had tentacles coming from it. And it was able to lift itself up off of the cover, off of the glass slide.
It was alive? Like the thing was alive?
It appeared to, be self-aware or be able to grow or move in space. I mean, all I can tell you is this is not something they taught us in medical school, nothing in my laboratories, nothing that I've seen before. And I've showed this to other people in the field, and they don't know what it is either. And I thought, when I first saw this, and I kept looking at it over and over again, I had a colleague with me, and we both thought, wow, this almost appears like it's self-aware, like it knows we're watching it. It's just an intuition, a feeling of mine, but it was very upsetting. And so after 2.5 hours, everything was destroyed, of course. And then I thought, well, maybe that was a fluke in a way. Maybe that was just that one vial. And so, just recently, the lab was able to get more vials, and same manufacturer, but, different batch, of course, looking at it the same way under the compound microscope. And another one of those tentacle-like structures appeared. This was now completely under the cover slip. So there was no movement because it wasn't on the edge. But I just couldn't believe I saw another one. And, it's same thing, same colors appeared over time, these fibers, there, in this time, I need to get, if they do it again, I have to get a video from them. There was actually motion that you could see in the video. So, this is very concerning, and also was able to look at the contents of a Johnson & Johnson vial. And there's definitely a substance that looked like graphene. They all had graphene-like structures in there. Whether or not they were, I don't have the capability of testing them, nor did this lab, but that's what they appeared to be. They had fatty substances, like a sticky glue-like substance that would be considered a hydrogel in those, both of them, right? So that means they're lying. They're lying to us about the Johnson & Johnson, about not having nanolipid particles or anything of that substance, and it does. And in the Johnson & Johnson, they also had colors appeared. Their colors were different. They were like a fluorescent pastel kind of color. Again, a lot of synthetic structures in there as well. In the Johnson & Johnson, more like the spherical ring structures were there, a lot of sphere structures. These, I'm describing what I'm seeing, but I've never seen anything like this before. And they're not supposed to be in these injections they're falsely calling vaccines. What are they going to do to somebody? What are they going to do to a child?
It's horrific.
I started crying when I saw these, second time under the microscope, because it was confirmation of everything I saw the first time.
If I were looking into a microscope at something that I was told was a vaccine to promote health and safety, and some self-aware tentacle-equipped creature started moving, I would probably run out of the laboratory. I mean, that's just me. I'm not scared of a lot, but that is scary that is going into the blood of global citizens. And you're right, they want to push this into our children.
Oh, yes. This was about 400 times magnification. So we don't have more information than that, but people need to really, really, really stop and think about what is happening right now. And it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, don't go and rush to a decision that you could regret. Something's not right in the world. I think we all know that right now. And to me, it's definitely on the level of a spiritual warfare, looking at it under the microscope. Absolutely. And, this pushes me, this inspires me to make more of these, maybe videos, if we can get the lab to get more of these samples, to do them in real time, so you can actually see what we're doing, to have proof of, yes, this is what is happening. This is what we are seeing. So you yourself can see what is happening under the microscope, because I don't think you need to have any science background. When you look at it, you'll see that something isn't right. This isn't supposed to be injected into human beings.
So when you first,
especially children,
before you started talking about this self-aware, whatever it is that lifted itself up off of the glass, you mentioned something about an injectable computing system. What do you make of that?
Yeah. So when colors just appeared in the solution, I mean, I'm talking about there's no color or very little. All of a sudden, the most brilliant blue, the most brilliant yellow, the most brilliant purple appeared in more and more and more and more over time. I've never seen anything be able to do that besides something, unless you added another substrate for a chemical reaction. It has to react with something. I didn't know what could do that. And so I started to talk to some nanotech engineers and genetic engineers, and they told me the only thing they knew of that could do that was a white light, which a white light did hit it. The microscope has a white light. A white light over time will make the reaction on a superconducting material. Superconducting is like an injectable computing system. So this is where the electronic components can now become visible under white light, so you know where they are. So this is proof that they are putting an operating system inside people. This happened in both the Moderna and the Johnson & Johnson samples that we observed. So, these are all, we're getting little pieces of evidence put together one by one, but everything is pointing to the very ominous, endpoint of this is the beginning or the advent of transhumanism, or this is the beginning or advent of being able to have surveillance and spying done on people, just like Bill Gates said he's doing right now in West Africa. People need to remember that the Gates Foundation, or at least Bill Gates and Gavi, his companies working with MasterCard and Trust Stamp, an artificial intelligence program, testing it on the people of West Africa with their COVID vaccines, injections, I should say, giving them a digital ID. They can only get their monetary funds through the digital ID and MasterCard, no other way, no cash, nothing. And this, and all their medical records and information downloaded into this digital format in their body. And they said in this program, this research experiment they're doing on the people, they said, well, if this substance is inside of them, this hydrogel substance, of course, why don't we use it for surveillance and predictive policing? We're going to start using it for surveillance and predictive policing on the people of West Africa right now. They've been doing this since July of 2020. And they said once they have it perfected, they would like to unveil it to all the developed nations. And what are they calling it? The wellness pass, which is also known as a vaccine passport. So how are they doing that, right, Stu? They have to put something inside your body to be able to monitor you and know everything that you're doing. So people need to wake up. What could they put inside your body for that to happen? How would they do it? I think Gates is already admitting to us how he's doing it or how he wants to do it. How much does it take? I don't know. I just know that I'm seeing these things with my own eyes, things that don't make sense, things that look like they could be used for, so they look like they are the advent of starting something of artificial intelligence inside the human body. And we know that the people in charge aren't to be very trustworthy at all. They've lied many times to us. The manufacturers have lied many times to us. So this is the time that we do not, we don't take this anymore. We don't take this kind of oppression and suppression. We're better than that. We are children of God. We choose to be, right? And
Absolutely.
I for one will not stand for it.
So just to wrap up here, and I know that you got to go, but I just, for responsibility purposes, you've examined things under microscopes before. You know what you're doing with a microscope. these vials multiple vials that you examined, you have kept track of the chain of custody. Nothing was inserted into these things before you were able to look at them. I mean, this is all on the up and up. And this is the genuinely the contents of what is found in multiple lots now, you have said, of the Moderna and the J&J vials.
Yeah, at least three batches. At least 3 batches, yes. That is correct.
It's awful. It's horrific. I can understand why you cried. Dr. Carrie Madej, thank you so much. And when you do have those videos, we trust that you'll come back here to share those with the audience. I mean, people need to know what it is that's being pushed on them. People need to know that this isn't just your everyday run-of-the-mill health and wellness prevention. There's none of that going on here. So we appreciate it.
Thanks. Yes, thanks, Stuart. Thanks for having me on the show, and I'm happy to come on in the future and share more as I get more information.
Great. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thanks.
Those images that we just looked at together, and then hearing the way that Dr. Carrie Madej describes the way that she felt viewing those images through a microscope, horrific, alarming, very concerning. And we have to be worried about being around people when we talk about things like transmission and shedding, the people who have already gotten this thing. You got to stay healthy. Dr. Vladimir Zev-Zelenko saved thousands of lives in upstate New York. He's a genius, which is why he's a Nobel Prize nominee, a Presidential Medal of Freedom nominee, boasts a 99.9% survival recovery rate of all of the patients, the high-risk COVID patients that he treated. He has put together his Z-Stack. The Z-Stack protocol can be found at zstackprotocol.com. All of the things that you can go to the pharmacy and put together yourself if you want to. If you don't want to worry about dosing, figuring it all out on your own, he's got it all in one pill. You can find it at zstackprotocol.com when we're talking about these chimerically engineered viruses. Who knows what it is that's floating around out here. Got to stay healthy. Early treatment protocol is the key. Find it at zstackprotocol.com. Again, zstackprotocol.com. The Stu Peters Show continues right now.
The states are taking children, giving them to somebody else for money that they get from the federal government. That means that all 50 states are involved in government-subsidized child trafficking. It's a ring. It is the largest and most pervasive child trafficking ring in the history of the world by sheer money and numbers.
Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act.
It was put into law in 1997 by Bill and Hillary Clinton, and I said it that way on purpose. And it is a law that literally steals money from the Social Security Fund and gives this money to the states in order to incentivize them to kidnap babies.
To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell.
Every child, once you've added it all up, is worth approximately $1 million to the state. But we've been told that this is a $60 to $80 billion a year industry, meaning the federal government is taking $80 billion a year and giving that money to all of the 50 states to kidnap children.
Parents are victimized by the system that makes a profit for holding children longer and bonuses for not returning children to their parents.
But their own statistics state that 83% of all children who are taken by CPS, Child Protective Services, are for unsubstantiated allegations, meaning never should it have happened in the first place. So that imagine anything else in the world where you know you get it wrong 83% of the time and you admit it, but you just keep doing it.
Case workers and social workers are often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence.